Poverty levels in urban areas in Papua New Guinea are growing, and the National Research Institute says without jobs and opportunities, it'll only get a lot worse. Don Wiseman spoke with one of the researchers, Dr. Philip Kavan, about the issue.
I think anyone who's travelled through Papua New Guinea has always seen a lot of poverty or signs of poverty. But just how bad is the urban poverty in Papua New Guinea now?
From my own perspective, you can just see by way how people try to cushion that poverty and try to survive day by day. And you'll be surprised to find that there's a lot of street selling that is going on, street kids begging, all these kind of things is happening on the street. Especially you go to urban centers like Port Moresby, the towns and all that. You will basically see those kind of things happening, and it clearly tells that it's a sign of poverty. People try to survive.
To a large extent, these people have drifted in from the rural areas over the last 20, 30 years or so. Have they lost connection with their home villages?
Really, what is happening, in my perspective, a lot of development and things, it's happening in the urban centers, like infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, I mean the school, health services and all that kind of thing. The basic services doesn't really reach the people in the remote areas. And so to acquire those kind of services, they migrate to the cities and towns to try to get service from those services that are available here in the cities and towns. That's one of the things that cause them to migrate. So nothing interesting or things that can sort of encourage them to stay back and enjoy the services that they need in the rural areas.
Yes. But it doesn't quite work out that way for many, I suppose, and they don't have things like food gardens to fall back on.
Yeah, they do have a food garden and all that, but sometimes with the land, that is not an issue. In rural settings, each clan have their own land, and those who don't have a land, they cannot really develop and do agriculture or whatever to help themselves, and they try to look elsewhere, how best they can able to survive.
So poverty that the National Research Institute is writing about, it's getting worse.
Yeah, indeed, yes. Yeah, it is getting worse. As I pointed out, poverty is a lack of access to economic and basic services in PNG. So once that kind of services is not visibly seen at the rural areas, people flock into the urban centers to try to acquire those kind of services. And also the poverty is kind of robbing people of their dignity, their potential, and in some cases their very lives in PNG. The traditional social values and king-based practices of taking care of those in need are breaking down. That's one of the facts that is clearly stands out. Previously, we are a communal type of people. We tend to support each other and look after each other's basic needs and all that. But that kind of culture, that kind of practice is kind of breaking down, and it's no longer very strong now.
You're saying that the chances of PNG reaching the Sustainable Development Goals and other national programs, it's less and less likely.
Yes.
So what would be your recommendation for what should be done to overcome this problem?
First of all, is jobs. Create more jobs and other means for the youth to earn cash. That's number one. And number two is provision of access to land for farming. And number three is basic services, access to education, water supply, health care, transport. By that I mean roads and public transport services, and markets. And number four, skills training. Provide skills training on small business management. Example like pig or poultry farms, small shops, and a support system including access to capital and credit. And lastly, social care system. Social care system for elders, single parents, people with disability, and other disadvantaged groups. Those are the kind of things that can be implemented to reduce or to cushion the poverty.
Yes, and I'm sure that would have a dramatic effect. I guess the thing is the lack of money, isn't it? It's the sort of move that essentially amounts to a revolution in terms of the way services and other things are provided for people. Do you think it's going to happen?
Yes, that can happen if we're able to create more jobs and try to help the youth to be employed, and they can try to do something, occupied doing something to earn cash to help themselves. Otherwise, they will become a problem, with social problem. They go into drug and they go into rascal activities and all those kind of things, so they have to be engaged in doing something to help themselves.